This is the tutorial for Chapter 8 in your Beginning AutoCAD workbook. Okay, our objectives for Lesson 8 from the book are to add a single line of text to the drawing, add a paragraph using multi-line text. 3 and 4 are control tabs, indents, use spell checker, add columns. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do those editor things like word processing, but we will do Objective 5, edit existing text. Okay, so the first one we want to look at is single line text. So single line text lets you enter one or more lines of text at a time, but it treats each line individually as compared to when we use multi-line text, which is going to treat it as a paragraph. So you have your text option here on the Annotate tab. There's a drop down for it. You'll see multi-line text or single line text. So you can either click up here for single line text or just enter DT on your keyboard. One important thing to do is to make sure you have your F12 button, your dynamic input, turned off. The dynamic input is that little, see on my cursor, I can enter information there. You want that turned off when you're entering text because sometimes it tends to follow it as a rotation. So if I just wanted to enter some single line text, I'm not going to use anything fancy, no justifications. It's just single line text. My command line says specify midpoint of text because that's the last one that I used. So I'm just going to click where I want it to be. I'm going to enter a height 1.5. I'm going to leave rotation at 0. And then I can just type whatever I want. When I'm done, hit enter twice. So now I have one row of single line text. If I wanted to do multiple rows, so again, specify my point. My height is going to be 1.5. My rotation is going to be 0. So I'll type, hit enter, type, hit enter. So I can keep adding lines, but I have to hit enter twice to get out of the command. Now, see each of these, I could turn them, I could change properties of them individually. And of course, when we're doing text, we always want to be working from our text layer. Okay, so let's say we want something specific for our text. We want it to be in a certain location. So in that case, the steps we're going to do are, we're going to pick our single line text tool, select justify from our command line. So let's go and do this. Single line tool, select justify or type J. Now we have all these different options. So your book shows you a whole page of how these different options work. So a line will fit it in between 2 points and the height gets adjusted. Fit puts the text between 2 points but does not change the height. Center is located at the bottom center of uppercase letters. Middle is located in the middle, horizontally and vertically, of your uppercase letters. Right is the bottom right of your uppercase text. Left, bottom left. Then you'll see TLC, TCR, or TR. So that's top left, top center, and top right. ML, MC, MR, middle left, middle center, middle right, and BL, BC, BR, bottom left, bottom center, bottom right. Let's take a look at what these are. So the following is an example of middle justification. So it said to draw a rectangle. So I've already drawn my rectangle. It gives you your sizes for your rectangle. So 6 inches by 3. and draw a diagonal line between the corners. So I have my diagonal line here as a center line. Select this, excuse me, select the single line text command. Before I do that, I'm going to make sure that I am on my text layer. Okay, now I want single line text. I want to select justify, and I'm going to pick as my option, I'm going to pick middle justification. So I could click on middle or type M. Specify the midpoint of text, so I'm going to snap to the middle of my line, make sure my F3 is turned on and my midpoint is on. So that's where I want the middle of my text to be. So it says specify height. I'm going to put 1. Rotation is going to be 0. And now I can enter my text. So if we looked at some of the other justifications, I'm just going to create a line down here. I'm just going to use an object line for it. Okay. And now I'm going to, okay, so single line text, justify. So let's start with left. Specify my starting point of my text. So that doesn't mean I have to start on the left. I'm still going to go with the middle of this line. I'm going to leave my height at 1, my rotation at 0, and now I'm going to type my text. So it's kicking everything over to the left of that point that I selected. Okay, this time, again, single line, justify. We already looked at middle. This is center. So I'm just going to pick a random point along my line. I'm just going to pick here. My height is still at 1, my angle is at 0, and HHHH. Okay, this time, justify. Let's do fit. So I want 1 point here, 1 point here. I'm just going to leave my height. I'm leaving all these settings alone. Oh, I'm sorry. I exited my command. Single line, justify, fit, this point to this point, height is 1. And you'll see as I type, the more letters I type, it's going to squash them closer together to make them fit inside of that distance. But they're still the same height. If I did justify and align, I can pick 2 points again, and it's, sorry, single line text, justify, align, specify my first endpoint, specify my second endpoint, and now as I type, it's going to adjust my text. It's not going to keep the same height, but it is going to keep regular spacing between them. Okay, so there's lots of justifications that you can play with there, lots of different settings to get your text exactly how you want it, where you want it located. Just remember to keep that F12 turned off. Okay, so the other type of text command we can work with is called multi-line text. So multi-line text allows you to easily add a sentence, paragraph, or tables. It has a text editor where you can add bold, italics, tabs, change your font, your spacing, all these different things. We're just going to start with creating a basic multi-line text. Okay, so again, we want to have our F12 turned off. And we want to make sure that we're working on our text layer. Okay, so when we look at the lesson, it says select the multi-line text from the drop-down, or you can type MT on your command line. Okay, so you'll see we have letters connected to our cursor for this. So first thing we have to do is define a boundary box, so where we want our text to fit in between. So I'm going to click the upper left corner where I want my text to go, and I'm going to left click on the lower right corner. Okay, so our text editor is going to pop up here in a second. So see how our ribbon has changed? We have all these new options. We can change our fonts. We'll look at annotative later on. But it's not going to let you change your height up here except for a few options. You're still going to be entering your height in your command line. But you can do bold, italics, underlines, pick different fonts, use all your different justifications, create bullets, adjust your line spacing, create columns, insert symbols, and use things like spell check, find and replace. One little thing that they mention in the books, I'm going to hit escape. So when you go into your multi-line text, see how you have those letters attached to your crosshairs? If you wanted to personalize that, and there's no need to, it's just something fun you might want, well, something that you might want to do. There's a command listed, MT, JIG, STRING. So multi-line text, jig string. So you can type in your new letters instead of ABC. And now when you go into multi-line text, that's what's going to show up for you. All right, so I'm going to undo that. Let's just go in and try the multi-line text feature. So multi-line text, oh, I didn't undo it, sorry. Multi-line text, oh, I have to undo it one letter at a time, look at that. Okay, so it's a whole lot easier than trying to undo that is just to go back into MT jig string and type in my ABC again, there. Okay, so multi-line text, I want to define the boundary box of where I want my text to be. And I'm going to create a paragraph. And I can keep hitting enter and I won't ever get out of that. I have to hit close text editor. So what happens here, now when I go to edit this, if I just selected it, it's going to select the whole thing at once if I wanted to change the layer or something. If I wanted to change individual portions of it, I would have to come back into my text editor and make my changes there. After that, it talks about your tabs, your columns, all of these things. We aren't going to use those. Paragraph and line spacing. We do want to look at the editing command though. So I just showed you to edit a multi-line paragraph, you double click it and it goes back into the editor. So the same thing with your single line text. If you have single line text made, just double click it. Your ribbon won't change. That editor won't come up, but you can change your single line text in there. Okay, so those are some of the basic overviews of single line text and multi-line text. Just remember, when you're doing the exercise, do yourself a favor. Make sure you have your F12 turned off. And when you're doing the exercise, pay attention, take a quick look at the video, because I mentioned 3 values that should be changed to make sure that you get your text in the proper locations. Okay, so that's our overview of lesson number 8.